Story 1, this is Fireteam Delta. Dad's coming home.
Welcome to the Military Veteran Dad Podcast, where it is our mission to bring every dad home. I am your host, Ben Cloy. I'm a United States Marine veteran, husband, and a father. We will bring authentic conversations to inspire action in your life so we can close the gap between the dad you are today and the dad you want to be tomorrow. This is the Military Veteran Dad Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Fatherhood Friday. It is your host, Ben Cloy, as always, dropping on the mic to bring you a story this time on a special day, unrelated to the day, but it's still a special day for me. It is my wife and I's 10-year wedding anniversary. We're going up to Door County, which is the thumb of Wisconsin, for those of you that might not know the geography of Wisconsin. Enjoying to get away. The kids are going to my parents. It's going to be a great weekend, so I'm really looking forward to that. But today, I want to bring a story that I've kind of hinted throughout the podcast, but I've never really told it in full succession in the length of the story. And it really is the seed that really changed my dad life. And what I mean by that is, well, when you hold your kids, that really changes your dad life because, let's be honest, holding your kid, that changes your dad life because you become a dad. But the moment that really widened my ability to see myself and the role I could play and what I really truly wanted out of my life was the trip to China that changed my life. Now, let's pull back a little bit. I never went to China. My wife went to China. So if you can start doing the math here, this was a trip to China that my wife did for teaching. And if she's in China, I'm here. And if she's in China, that means it's not an overnight trip. That doesn't mean it's a weekend trip. That means it is a 10-day trip. And I remember when she asked me, I was like, whoa, it sounded like a lot. Now, I didn't express that anxiety in that moment because it wasn't something I wanted to express to her. I wanted to be supportive like a loving husband should be. And I remember like, yeah, you should do it. And I just remember going all in with it. But then as I started thinking about it, like, I've never been with the kids that long before. This is going to be scary. Now, luckily for me, that same year, and this was all just in 2019, so just last year, my wife had went on a spring break trip with her teacher friends to Florida, 4-day trip. And that one I had actually encouraged her to do because she was worried, and it was just teachers and spring break, they're ready to get away. And she did it, and it was amazing. That was the first time I had 4 kids on my own, and it was just as scary. And I was like, oh man, what did I just do by sending my wife to Florida? That means it's on me. That one, I don't remember it being as chaotic. I remember it being pretty normal, a normal weekend. The kids were in school for 2 days throughout that, so it was fairly normal. Fast forward to when she asked me to go to China, 10 days, I was like, what could happen? I did it for 4 days. What's 10 days? It's probably just like riding a bike. Luckily for me, where I worked, I had good chunk of vacation. We had a basic plan of 4 weeks, and I had earned up to 6 weeks in the bank. So I was like, you know what? Just to make sure I don't go crazy, I am not going to try to balance daycare and balance being home by myself with 3 kids. So I decided to take the vacation, and that was my insurance policy to make sure that I survived. Because in my head, this was either going to be heaven or this was going to be hell. And so taking off work, I was like, let's just put all my eggs into the basket. Now, getting my wife out the door, saying goodbyes, the first few days, I'm going to be honest, were not easy. Getting her out the door and saying goodbye, that part went well. The kids didn't really know what to expect, so they said goodbye like nothing. But they did miss her throughout that process, so that was something I had to deal with. But we'll park that for later in the episode today. I want to talk about in those first few days. So this is a 10-day stretch that I'm going on. I've never done anything like it. I have never had it all on me. And literally, it is all on me. And at that time, I was actually blogging on my Facebook post and calling it Dad Blog. It's all on me. Day 1, day 2. And I was talking about the different things that were going on in my life at that time on those days and what I learned, what I failed, something funny that happened to me, something funny the kids did, whatever it may be. I was laying it out for everybody to judge, to get a good laugh at my expense. And many people did. They all enjoyed me blogging every day. But what I'm sharing the story for you is just to give you a glimpse in what really transformed everything that I've been able to embrace in 2020 started in this story. So she left on a Friday, and I remember the weekend was very chaotic. I remember stressing about trying to get dinners ready, trying to plan something, because what I initially did was like, oh man, I got him for 10 days. I've got to do all this epic stuff, all these cool things. It's got to be Instagram worthy. It's got to do all this different stuff. So I was so much in my head. I was trying to over plan. I under delivered, and I felt like crap at the end of every day. The ironic part is I really don't remember drinking much during this, but every morning for the first, I'd say 4 or 5 days, I felt like I woke up with a hangover, and I wasn't even drinking. Like, I was just waking up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. What happened the day before? I'm never doing that again type feeling, except in this case, I had no alcohol to blame it on. And so those first few days, I remember feelings like, man, I just punished my daughter 2 hours ago, and I don't even remember what I told her was the punishment. I remember thinking, wow, I just told my kids not to do that 4 hours ago, and they're doing it again. I just told my kids to go do this, and I don't even remember what it was. And honestly, that was one big revelation throughout the entire process that allowed me to connect better with my wife. That one of the things that I don't think men understand a lot of is how much the decision process every day, and even as a stay-at-home dad, I can still validate this now this year, making the decisions every day. What's for dinner? When to change the laundry? What are you going to do? When is it going to happen? Are you going to get all the stuff you need to get done and keep everything going? Those decisions, punishments, all that stuff, that's exhausting. Like, I think that's truly what wore me out in the beginning was just the sheer amount of decisions that I had to make in the beginning, because it was just a lot. I make decisions at work, but in the context of being at home and the whole idea of the whole thing, it was extremely stressful. So she left on a Friday. I was a hot mess almost every day. I was learning. I was going through. Every day I would post. Someone would give me maybe some advice or reassurance, like, hang in there. And every day I was like, yep, not doing that. It was kind of just the iteration process. Yeah, we're gonna cross that idea off. It looked good on a whiteboard, but we're not going to implement that on a second day. I learned that lesson the hard way. So there was lots of those moments. But she left on a Friday, and it wasn't until about Tuesday of the next week, that I really started hitting my stride. And a couple of different moments happened. So there was also the 2 older kids that I have are in summer school at the time as well. So my youngest daughter was not in summer school. And so we would drop them off in the morning, and then I would get to spend the morning with my daughter. I would go to the gym. She would go to daycare. All memories that I now miss in COVID time, but nevertheless, it was still nice to have in that time. I would do my thing. She would hang out in daycare, and then we would have it. And then we would go pick up the kids after summer school in the morning. And it was just a great morning. I remember there's a lot of good pictures on my phone of me and her in those mornings just hanging out. And I felt like we would drop the kids off and we would come home, and we have a circle out in front of our house, and we would just walk around that circle, and she would be on her tricycle. It would be like an 8-minute, 5-minute walk tops. And she would just absolutely love that. It became something she asked every day that week to do when we got home is, can we go walk around the circle? I mean, it's not that big of a circle. It's literally just kind of like a really big circle. This is in kind of like a half circle in our area. I remember connecting in those moments, taking a few pictures, and just feeling alive. I remember feeling the amount of gratitude in those moments of just so appreciative that I did take off. And I started having these ideas that, like, I'm already thinking that I know when I'm 50, that this week, these 10 days will be something that I reflect on probably far too often, but I know I will reflect on, and they will be the nostalgic times. And at the time, I still had a job. So this idea of being a stay-at-home dad really didn't even exist. It wasn't something I was pursuing, or even said was an ambition of mine. I just knew that this moment was, these 10 days are going to be a memory that I know in 50 years, I'm going to look back and be like, damn, I am so proud of myself for investing and being intentional and not trying to balance work, because I really did get a gift by my wife going to China. I was able to grow more into myself. I was able to let go of some of the things that I thought I could do and really couldn't, and then figure out and be humble enough to learn. Those moments were so transformational in those first few days, because I had to fail hard every day. But going through that process of failing and failing and failing, and they just get going and keep going, that really helped me understand that like parenting, being a parent in 2020, being a parent in any time frame, it's about iteration. No one parent gets it right. It's about just figuring out what didn't work and trying it again. And I feel like when we have mom and dad both there, it's easy to kind of like let go of what you can't control, and then the other person picks up what you can't control. But when it's on you, you have to grow a lot. And that's exactly what I did those 10 days. So fast forward to like Tuesday and Wednesday. I remember Wednesday, I hit my stride. I felt like I woke up, we were in a routine. It was just a great time. Something else that happened this was Father's Day that Sunday after she left. I had never celebrated Father's Day without my wife there. There was nobody to organize that special day to make me feel special. It was really, I woke up and it was just me and the kids. And the kids don't really care that it's Father's Day. I mean, they might a little bit, but let's be honest, they really don't. And we went to my family's that time. We had fun. We went to a park. We got ice cream. I have a picture of that memory. Like those little micro moments did something to me that is still being unpacked to this day. And those 10 days throughout that entire time frame, the memories, and I would say looking back, like what I've learned this year being a stay-at-home dad throughout the summer is there was so much more growth that I could have dove into, but maybe was too afraid, or maybe I just wasn't ready for it. And that could be very well be the case. But man, I'm so proud that I did that. So fast forward a little bit further in this 10-day journey. And I remember just flowing through the day. I owned it. And something else we did that I wouldn't really, when talking about landscaping, is something I've been talking about in the podcast quite a bit. We did a flower bed up front. I had a big pile of dirt delivered. We did a bunch of different things around the house. The kids loved the dirt pile. And this was something we just kind of did every day. And you want to talk about micromanaging and trying to figure out how to keep things moving. A lesson that I didn't design when I created this, but I had to learn through it and grow through it, was you're trying to do a landscaping job outside. And under normal circumstances, your wife is probably inside, maybe keeping the house going, resetting the house from a busy week, whatever it may be. You usually have two people. You're not tag teaming, trying to be both. Well, if you're trying to do landscaping outside, you can't make sure your daughter's butt's getting wiped inside, or that you can even hear her when she needs to get help. You aren't inside making sure that something's defrosting for dinner. You aren't inside trying to get something defrosted or ready and prepared for lunch. Whatever it may be, if you're outside doing a project, most men just dive into that project, and that was me. Except in this case, I had to do both. Like that, I remember it very vividly, like trying to figure out like, oh man, the decisions I make or don't make in the morning really have dire consequences at 5 o'clock if I didn't pay attention correctly, or if I just went into all dirt mode, like nothing would have gotten done. The laundry wouldn't have gotten switched upstairs. Like these are little things that we don't think about, but man, it was a big moment for me to grow into. Heck, this whole experience has been a big moment for me to grow into. And so fast forward, so if you think about all of these different times, and if you think about all the different things that I was trying to keep going in my head, the cleaning, outside, entertainment, groceries, kids fed, I'm going to be honest, the house was not the best in shape. There was lots of footprints all over the floors. I don't think I vacuumed much that week. And so there was something I called on my blog that day was my wife was, so coming from China, she's in the air long before, like probably like 5 o'clock in our time morning. And I remember thinking like, okay, as what I called it was Operation Stick the Landing. Because essentially it was my job now to reset the house. I went into cleaning mode all the time. I had to restock the groceries, make sure we had groceries for the upcoming week so that it wasn't just kind of dumping it on my wife. One thing I didn't do well is I didn't get a lot of laundry folded. I had it all washed, but unfortunately I had a big pile of laundry for my wife to help fold back then. And just going through all of that, Operation Stick the Landing, I would say I pretty much stuck it, but man, it was such an operation of growth. That's the big theme that I want you to pick up from this episode and this story, because this 10 days was scary as hell for me. But I would never trade the hot mess cold day at the water park that we went to, the trips to the park, all of those, the walking with my daughter, the crying at drop off with my son. all of that would have been missed because I would have just been sitting at my desk doing the same thing every day. And what this 10 days gave me, to put a nice bow on this whole thing, I had a different kind of hangover when I went to work. I had the kind of hangover that said, I just want to be dad again. None of this other stuff really mattered to me anymore, and I just wanted to be dad. Like the smile, the joy that I felt during these 10 days was something that was so powerful. That 10 days planted a seed that I feel really started to grow during Corona times. That all of this, especially after losing my job, like all of that, if I hadn't had this 10 days, I probably would have just went back to normal and got another job and said, you know what, this is how life's supposed to work. But those 10 days that I spent when I let my wife go to China and myself go through this hell of trying to be a dad that does it all for 10 days on his own, that journey shaped who I was on January 27th. It allowed me to see deeper into who I was and also where I wanted to go. So if you've been hearing a lot of the different stories of this year, me talking about being a stay-at-home dad, maybe you listened for the podcast a lot last year and you're like, where did he get this big idea to go stay-at-home dad? It all started in this 10-day window of being a dad where it was all on me. Like I said, I had a hangover when I went back to work for almost like 2 months almost because, God, I just wanted those 10 days back. Like it was a surreal feeling to know I was that connected, that presence. Nothing else mattered. I wasn't focused on work. The only thing that mattered was these 3 little kids and enjoying as much time as I could with them and just being me and figuring out what being me really meant. Without that gift, I wouldn't have been able to see 2020 and in 2020, it actually uses a pun there with 2020 vision, because I would have used it through the same lens of my life that I've always saw it through. One that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't going to get where I wanted. And honestly, I didn't really know what I want. So if you've always wondered why I wanted to be a stay-at-home dad, where did that journey begin? It began when my wife went to China, and it was all on me to be a dad that I hadn't been before, but to grow through that. And I want to, if you're out there listening and you're a dad, know that this might scare you, this idea of what I just talked about. But no, this type of exercise is what really pulls the dad in you out. It really forces you to be dad, where you can't just run. You can't run from what's in front of you. And this growth will shape you. It will reveal more of who you are and what you're meant to be as a dad, the kind of dad that you want to be in your heart. And so I hope maybe this episode gave you some inspiration. Maybe get your wife out of the house, put her on a plane, put her on a bus, get her in a car to go somewhere with her friends, and challenge yourself to be dad and only be dad, and figure out a way to really just step into your power as a dad, because that's what this podcast is about. And with that, I'm signing off. I will talk to you guys again on Monday, and hopefully everything goes great this weekend. No surprises, no COVID scares, and we just get a great weekend to celebrate our 10th anniversary. So guys, like I said, signing off, and I'll talk to you guys again on Monday.